Welcome to Timeless History. Tonight, we drift into one of the most mysterious tales ever told. The legend of Atlantis. A city that, even after thousands of years, still lingers in our imagination. A place of beauty, wealth, and advanced knowledge. But also a city swallowed by the sea. Lost to time. Close your eyes. Imagine the soft sound of the waves. A horizon glowing under the golden light of the setting sun. This is where our journey begins. The story of Atlantis first appeared in the writings of Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher. Plato described a powerful and prosperous island civilization, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which is today known as the Strait of Gibraltar. He wrote that Atlantis was a place of immense wealth and beauty, with grand palaces, golden temples, and fertile lands that stretched far and wide. It was said that the people of Atlantis lived in harmony with nature, and their knowledge of science, architecture, and philosophy was far ahead of their time. Plato's story of Atlantis appears in two of his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. These texts describe a world that seems almost too perfect, with canals, bridges, and shining towers. The central city was built with concentric rings of land and water, making it both stunning and easy to defend. The Atlanteans were said to be descendants of Poseidon, the god of the sea, and a mortal woman named Cleito. To honor their divine origins, they built a grand temple dedicated to Poseidon, decorated with gold, silver, and precious stones. But Atlantis was not just about wealth and power. It was also a place of wisdom. The people valued education, philosophy, and the balance between man and nature. Their cities were filled with gardens, fountains, and statues. Music and art were part of their daily lives. Every building, every structure was designed not only to serve a purpose but to inspire. Yet, as time passed, the Atlanteans became greedy and proud. Plato writes that their hearts turned away from virtue. The gods, displeased with their arrogance, decided to punish them. And so, according to the legend, in a single day and night of misfortune, Atlantis was swallowed by the sea. A once great civilization vanished beneath the waves, leaving nothing but a memory. Some believe Plato's story was just a moral tale, a warning against human pride and corruption. Others believe it was based on a real place, a real disaster, perhaps a memory of a lost island in the Aegean or even further beyond. The mystery of Atlantis has inspired explorers, dreamers, and writers for centuries. Imagine the Atlantean ports, where ships from distant lands arrived with treasures and spices. The smell of the sea mixing with the scent of exotic woods and flowers. Merchants greeting travelers under tall columns decorated with intricate carvings. Children playing by the canals, laughing as the water reflects the evening sun. In the heart of the city stood the grand Temple of Poseidon. Its walls covered with shining orichalcum, a mythical metal said to be even more precious than gold. Statues of sea creatures guarded the entrance. Inside, the sound of water flowing through marble fountains created a feeling of peace and reverence. Priests lit incense, and the air was filled with the faint aroma of burning herbs. Life in Atlantis was organized and harmonious. There were gardens with colorful flowers, orchards heavy with fruit, and fields of grain that fed the entire population. People lived in houses decorated with mosaics and painted murals. Music played in the courtyards, with soft flutes and stringed instruments echoing under the clear sky. Every festival was a celebration of nature, of the gods, and of the wisdom that sustained their city. The Atlanteans were also great builders. They carved canals through the land, connecting the sea with the inner city. Bridges arched gracefully over the waters, and streets were paved with smooth stone. At night, the city glowed with the light of oil lamps, and the reflection of these lights danced on the water's surface. It must have felt like a dream, a place where beauty and knowledge existed in perfect balance. Yet, not all was perfect. As the generations passed, the leaders of Atlantis sought more power. They expanded their territory, conquering lands and demanding tribute. Their once pure hearts began to chase wealth and domination. Plato wrote that when the Atlanteans lost their sense of virtue, they also lost the favor of the gods. The legend says that the earth trembled. The sea rose. The sky darkened with storms. Within a single day and night, the island of Atlantis sank beneath the waves, taking with it its shining towers, its temples, its gardens. All that remained was silence. As you listen to this story, feel the weight of time pressing gently around you. Think of the countless civilizations that have risen and fallen. Atlantis might be just a story, or perhaps a memory of something real. What matters is that its legend continues to remind us of the delicate balance between knowledge, power, and humility. Take another deep breath. Allow your thoughts to wander to those shining streets, now lost under the ocean. Imagine the sound of the sea washing over the ruins, whispering the forgotten songs of a once great people. The waves carry the memory of Atlantis, just as history carries the memory of all who came before us. This is where our journey into Atlantis begins. The story of Atlantis does not end with Plato's words. For centuries, countless people have tried to uncover its secrets. From philosophers and scholars, to explorers and treasure hunters, the dream of finding the lost city has never faded. Think of the ocean, endless and deep. Somewhere, beneath those waves, could there still be remnants of Atlantis? Columns buried under sand. Statues lying silent, covered by coral. The whispers of a civilization waiting to be rediscovered. In ancient times, the sea was both a pathway and a mystery. Sailors would tell stories of strange lights under the water, or ruins glimpsed near volcanic islands. Could these have been the traces of Atlantis? Or were they simply the imagination of those who longed for a golden age now lost? The idea of Atlantis speaks to something deep inside us. It is not just about a lost city. It is about the rise and fall of humanity. About how greatness can be both a blessing and a curse. A civilization that rises too high, without balance, can fall just as quickly. Close your eyes and imagine walking through the markets of Atlantis. There are spices from distant lands, woven fabrics of dazzling colors, and merchants calling out with gentle voices. The streets are lined with beautiful mosaics, and fountains send streams of clear water into the air. Children laugh as they chase one another, while musicians play sweet melodies that fill the warm night air. In the distance, the palace rises above all other buildings. Its walls are carved with scenes of the sea, dolphins, waves, and chariots pulled by seahorses. Inside, the halls are vast and filled with soft light, reflected from polished marble floors. One can almost hear the whispers of leaders discussing philosophy, trade, and the future of their empire. But then, picture the final day. The sky turns dark. The earth shakes with a force never felt before. The sea grows wild, waves crashing against the shores. People scream, running through the streets, as buildings crumble and the ground opens beneath them. In just hours, the city is gone, swallowed by the ocean's fury. The waves smooth over the surface, and all is silent once again. It is said that only those who kept their hearts pure survived, fleeing to distant lands. Some believe these survivors carried their knowledge to Egypt, to Greece, and even beyond. That perhaps the wisdom of Atlantis lives on in the great monuments of the ancient world. Let your mind wander now. Picture the ruins of Atlantis resting at the bottom of the ocean. Columns covered in coral. Golden statues lying silent in the sand. The soft sound of currents moving through the remains of what was once the heart of a great civilization. As the story of Atlantis drifts into your thoughts, feel your body becoming lighter. Every breath is slower, calmer. This tale is not just history or legend, but a lullaby told by time itself. Each word is like the gentle sound of waves brushing against the shore. And so, our first step into the mystery of Atlantis comes to an end. We have seen its beauty, heard its whispers, and felt its loss. In the next part of our journey, we will dive deeper into the many theories that surround this legend. But for now, rest your mind on the image of that shining city under the waves, quiet, timeless, and waiting for someone to remember. The myth of Atlantis has always been more than a story of a single city. It has become a symbol of every civilization that has risen and fallen throughout history. When we think of Atlantis, we think of beauty, but also of fragility. We are reminded that nothing lasts forever, not even the greatest empires. Imagine the deep blue sea where Atlantis once stood. The waves roll gently now, as if they are protecting the secrets of the past. Below them, the ruins sleep quietly, untouched for millennia. Perhaps the fish and sea creatures swim between the columns that once supported grand palaces. Perhaps the ocean floor is still decorated with shattered mosaics, their patterns faintly visible through layers of sand. Modern explorers have searched the oceans, hoping to find any trace of Atlantis. Some believe it lies near the islands of Santorini, where a massive volcanic eruption destroyed an entire civilization thousands of years ago. Others say it is hidden in the Caribbean, or even under the frozen ice of Antarctica. Each theory adds another layer of mystery, another dream to chase. But maybe Atlantis was never meant to be found. Maybe it lives only in the mind, a perfect city that exists beyond time, teaching us lessons through its story rather than through its ruins. Think of the light in Atlantis. The way the sun would reflect off the golden temples and white stone streets. At sunset, the entire city would glow as if it was made of fire. People would gather near the harbor to watch the ships return, their sails filled with the evening wind. The smell of salt, flowers, and fresh bread would fill the air. It must have been a place where every moment felt alive and warm. Now, imagine the silence that followed its fall. The world forgot Atlantis, but the legend remained, carried forward by whispers and ancient tales. Every time someone speaks of Atlantis, it rises again, if only for a moment, in our imagination. This story lingers because it speaks to hope. The hope that somewhere out there, a piece of this lost world still waits to be uncovered. And until that day comes, Atlantis will live on in stories, dreams, and quiet moments like this one. Breathe slowly. Feel your mind drifting across the waters, as if you are sailing on a calm sea at night. The stars above you shine like silver, and the world feels endless. This is the feeling that Atlantis gives us, a journey through mystery, beauty, and the unknown. And as we close this part of our story, picture Atlantis one last time. Its towers, its gardens, its shining bridges. A world of wonder that still calls to us, across time, across the sea, waiting for its secrets to be told once again. In this second part of our journey through the legend of Atlantis, we drift deeper into its story, beyond Plato's words, into the theories, mysteries, and the lasting fascination that this lost world has inspired. As the centuries passed, the myth of Atlantis grew like a shadow cast over history. It was not merely a story, it was a puzzle. A riddle that whispered of a forgotten golden age. The writings of Plato were studied, debated, and translated. Many wondered if he was describing a real place or simply weaving a cautionary tale. Some believed that Atlantis was a symbol of Athens itself, an allegory about the dangers of greed and hubris. Close your eyes and imagine ancient scholars reading Plato's dialogues by candlelight. The quiet rustle of parchment, the crackling flame, and the soft sound of their voices as they read aloud the tale of a perfect island that vanished in a single night. To them, it was both a mystery and a warning. But to dreamers, it became a quest. During the age of exploration, as sailors charted the unknown seas, many believed they would one day stumble upon the ruins of Atlantis. The ocean was vast, filled with strange lands and uncharted waters. Each island they discovered could have been the remains of the legendary city. Stories of golden cities and forgotten empires filled the hearts of explorers with both hope and wonder. One of the most enduring theories places Atlantis in the Mediterranean. Some scholars believe that Plato was describing the island of Santorini, once home to the ancient Minoan civilization. Around 1600 BCE, a massive volcanic eruption destroyed much of the island, sending tsunamis across the Aegean and burying cities in ash. Could this have been the true Atlantis? The parallels are striking, a flourishing, advanced society, destroyed by nature's fury. Yet others believe Atlantis was far beyond the Mediterranean, perhaps in the Atlantic Ocean, near the Azores or Canary Islands. The name Atlantis itself suggests a connection to the Atlantic. Imagine a great island, lush and green, rising from the deep waters. Its harbors filled with ships, its streets alive with music and trade. Now picture that same island sinking, swallowed by the sea, its towers falling into the waves, never to be seen again. The fascination with Atlantis is not limited to historians. Poets, writers, and artists have drawn inspiration from its tale. In the 19th century, the story saw a revival, as new discoveries about ancient civilizations captured the public's imagination. Books were written, claiming to reveal the truth of Atlantis, some filled with maps, others with bold theories that stretched from Egypt to South America. Imagine sitting in a quiet study during the 1800s. The room smells of leather-bound books and ink. An explorer, dressed in worn clothes, tells stories of distant lands and strange ruins, convincing his listeners that Atlantis was real. Each word stirs the mind, painting vivid images of marble cities and temples now hidden beneath the waves. Modern science has also joined the search. Underwater archaeology, sonar mapping, and deep-sea expeditions have all tried to uncover traces of a lost civilization. From the Bahamas to the coast of Spain, researchers have discovered strange stone structures, ancient roads, and formations that resemble city walls. Some believe these could be natural formations, but others insist they might be remnants of a forgotten world. The story of Atlantis is as much about imagination as it is about history. It challenges us to think about what lies beneath the surface of the ocean, hidden and waiting. It also reminds us of the fragility of human achievement. A single disaster, a single moment, can erase centuries of progress. Atlantis is a mirror of our own world, a reflection of how quickly greatness can fade. As you listen to these words, let your mind drift to the sea. Picture a deep blue expanse, calm and endless. Beneath it, a city sleeps. Its streets are quiet, its gardens still, but its spirit is alive in the stories we tell. You can almost feel the presence of those who once walked its streets, their laughter echoing faintly through time. In our next part, we will dive even deeper into the myths and legends, exploring how Atlantis has shaped culture, art, and even modern ideas of lost worlds. For now, let your thoughts rest like soft waves on a tranquil shore, carrying the image of Atlantis with them. Let us wander further into the heart of the legend. Every detail of Atlantis invites us to imagine a world unlike any other. Picture the architecture, massive walls of white, red, and black stone, glimmering in the sunlight like polished jewels. The outer walls of the city were said to be covered in shining metals, reflecting the light of the sun and the moon, so that from far away, Atlantis appeared to glow like a star upon the sea. The inner city was built around a great hill, where the Temple of Poseidon stood as the centerpiece. This was no ordinary temple. Its columns were encrusted with silver, its roof plated with gold, and statues of the god of the sea towered above all who entered. Inside, sacred bowls roamed freely, symbolizing power and fertility, while altars burned with offerings to honor the gods. The air was filled with the sound of bells and the soft hum of chants, inviting all who entered to feel a deep sense of peace and reverence. Imagine walking through the grand avenues of Atlantis. The streets were wide, lined with tall trees that gave shade to travelers. Markets overflowed with fruits, grains, and exotic spices brought from distant shores. The people dressed in fine fabrics, dyed in rich colors, adorned with jewelry crafted from orichalcum, a mythical metal said to shine like fire when struck by sunlight. There was music in the air, the sound of flutes, harps, and the rhythmic beat of drums, as dancers moved gracefully during festivals dedicated to the gods. The Atlanteans were masters of engineering. They built canals that connected the rings of land and sea, allowing ships to sail directly to the heart of the city. These canals were lined with marble steps, where children would play, and merchants would unload their goods. Fresh water flowed through aqueducts, feeding fountains and gardens, while bridges of carved stone arched across the waterways, making the city look like a living dream of elegance and harmony. Yet, in this perfection, a shadow grew. As generations passed, the Atlanteans began to value power more than wisdom. They looked beyond their own shores, seeking to conquer new lands. Their fleets, once used for trade and exploration, were turned into tools of war. They demanded tribute from neighboring nations, and their kings grew proud and unyielding. The once golden heart of Atlantis began to tarnish. Plato tells us that when the Atlanteans strayed too far from virtue, the gods decided to intervene. A great disaster was sent as both punishment and a lesson. The earth trembled, the seas rose, and in one terrible night, Atlantis was lost. Imagine the terror of that moment, the ground splitting apart, buildings collapsing, and waves taller than temples crashing down on the city. The screams of the people mixed with the roar of the sea, and then, silence. Only the endless ocean remained. Despite this tragic end, the memory of Atlantis has never truly faded. Its story has been carried through time like a whisper in the wind. It lives in the pages of books, in the dreams of adventurers, and in the quiet curiosity of those who gaze at the horizon, wondering what lies beneath the waves. Some believe that the survivors of Atlantis scattered across the world, bringing with them knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and architecture. There are those who claim that the pyramids of Egypt, the temples of Mesoamerica, and even the great stone circles of Europe, bear the fingerprints of Atlantean wisdom. Whether this is true or not, it speaks to how deeply the legend of Atlantis is woven into the human spirit. Take a deep breath, and allow your mind to drift over the waters where Atlantis might once have stood. Picture the ruins now, lying silent beneath the sea. Coral and seaweed wrap themselves around broken columns. Schools of fish glide through open doorways, and the sunlight above creates shifting patterns on the ocean floor. It is a scene both beautiful and haunting, a reminder of all that was lost, and all that remains to be discovered. The mystery of Atlantis is not just about a city that sank. It is about the longing we feel for something greater, for a time and place where life was pure, and beauty existed in every corner of the world. Perhaps Atlantis was never meant to be found, because it lives best in our dreams, as a symbol of what we strive to build, and what we fear to lose. And so, as this part of the story closes, we hold the image of Atlantis close, like a treasure hidden in the heart. The waves continue to move, soft and steady, as if whispering the secrets of a world long gone. The legend of Atlantis is like an endless wave. It comes and goes, whispering secrets through time. Each telling of the story adds something new, something soft and mysterious. Think of the quiet moments in the city before its fall. The streets glowing under the morning sun. Children waking up to the sound of flowing fountains. Fishermen preparing their boats. Priests lighting candles in the grand Temple of Poseidon. Every corner of Atlantis held a feeling of life, of purpose, of beauty. There were festivals filled with laughter, where music floated through the air like a gentle breeze. The smell of flowers and spices would drift from the markets, and the soft hum of voices would echo in the grand plazas. In those moments, the city felt eternal, as if nothing could ever take it away. But history teaches us that nothing lasts forever. Even the greatest of cities can vanish. Even the brightest of lights can fade. The people of Atlantis may have felt untouchable, yet the sea waited patiently, ready to reclaim its kingdom. As the final night came, one can only imagine the fear and confusion. The ground shaking. The sea rising. The sky darkening as if the gods themselves were angry. And then, silence. The city gone. The waves smoothing everything into stillness. Now all that remains is the memory. And perhaps, somewhere deep beneath the waves, the ruins still wait, holding their breath in the quiet dark. As you hear these words, let your mind drift even slower. Picture the ruins glowing faintly under the moonlight, as if they are still alive in some other time. This is how Atlantis lives on, not just as a story, but as a dream. In this third part of our journey into Atlantis, we leave behind the familiar words of Plato, and step into the vast sea of imagination, where countless theories, legends, and stories have taken root. Atlantis is not only a place, it is an idea. An idea of a perfect world that was lost, and a reminder of how fragile every civilization truly is. Think of the explorers who sailed across the seas, driven not only by adventure, but by the hope of discovering something extraordinary. Many believed they would find Atlantis just beyond the horizon, hidden under the waves, waiting to be revealed. One of the most fascinating theories places Atlantis in the Caribbean, near the Bahamas. Strange underwater structures have been discovered there, with formations that resemble roads or walls. Some claim these are natural formations, while others insist they could be remnants of a forgotten civilization. Imagine the warm blue waters of the Caribbean, and deep below, ruins covered with coral, silent and waiting. Another theory points to South America, especially near Bolivia and Peru. Ancient cities such as Tiwanaku, with their precise stonework and mysterious origins, have led some to wonder if survivors of Atlantis settled there. The idea that Atlantean knowledge could have shaped other civilizations is both exciting and mysterious. In modern times, Atlantis has also inspired stories of advanced technology. Some writers suggest that Atlantis was not just a city of stone and gold, but a place of science far beyond its time. They speak of crystal energy, flying machines, and knowledge of the stars that surpasses what we know even today. While there is no evidence to support these claims, they remind us that legends often grow and evolve with the dreams of each generation. Close your eyes now. Picture Atlantis as it might have been, not as ruins, but alive and full of energy. The streets are alive with music and laughter. Children play by the canals. Merchants call out, selling goods from across the known world. Above it all, the Temple of Poseidon gleams, its walls reflecting the golden rays of the setting sun. There is a sense of peace in the city, a feeling that everything is in harmony. The sound of flowing water mixes with the songs of birds. The smell of flowers drifts through the air, carried by a soft breeze from the ocean. It is a place that feels eternal, a place that belongs not just to the past, but to the imagination of everyone who dreams. Yet the shadow of its fate lingers. Even in moments of joy, there is the quiet knowledge that nothing can last forever. The sea is always there, just beyond the walls, waiting and watching. It is the same sea that gives life and takes it away. Let us wander through the gardens of Atlantis. Fountains sparkle in the sunlight, their water pure and clear. Statues of gods and heroes stand among the flowers, their faces carved with expressions of calm strength. The people stroll through these gardens, talking softly, enjoying the warmth of the day. This is life in Atlantis, a life of balance, beauty, and knowledge. Now imagine the grand library of Atlantis. Rows upon rows of scrolls and tablets filled with wisdom. Knowledge of medicine, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. Perhaps even secrets we have not yet discovered. This library, if it ever existed, would have been the heart of their learning, a treasure greater than gold or jewels. As we drift through this vision, feel the calmness of the moment. Each detail of Atlantis is like a dream, soft and slow, moving like waves on a quiet shore. The more we picture it, the more real it feels. Take a deep breath. Let the image of Atlantis stay with you as we prepare to go deeper, exploring not just its story, but the lessons it carries for all of us. The Library of Atlantis was said to be a place of quiet wonder. Imagine walking inside its grand halls. The soft glow of lanterns reflecting off polished stone floors. Rows of wooden shelves filled with scrolls, maps, and texts. The scent of aged parchment mixed with the sweet aroma of incense. Here, scholars work tirelessly, recording their discoveries and preserving knowledge for future generations. What kinds of wisdom did they hold? Perhaps they understood the stars better than we do now. Perhaps they studied medicine and healing in ways that could have changed history if their city had survived. Their understanding of mathematics and architecture must have been extraordinary, given the beauty and precision of their structures. To think that all of this knowledge could have been lost in a single night is a reminder of how fragile progress can be. The city was more than just stone and water. It was alive with voices, laughter, and dreams. Fishermen casting their nets at dawn, sailors preparing ships for distant voyages, farmers tending to fields filled with golden crops. The markets were vibrant, alive with colors and sounds. Spices from faraway lands, bright fabrics, fresh fruits, and rare treasures filled the stalls. Everywhere you looked, there was life and energy. In the evenings, the city would slow down. The streets would glow softly as oil lamps were lit. The sound of music would rise from the courtyards. The people would gather to share stories, sing songs, and celebrate the beauty of their world. It was a city of joy, but also of deep respect for the gods and for nature itself. Close your eyes and picture a sunset over Atlantis. The sky painted in shades of orange and purple. The sea turning to gold as the last light of the day reflects across the waves. The Temple of Poseidon shining like fire as its golden walls catch the light. Children running through the gardens. The soft sound of flutes echoing through the air. This is how Atlantis must have looked during its most peaceful moments. But like all great civilizations, there was a turning point. Power and pride began to overshadow wisdom. The leaders, once humble, grew ambitious and harsh. They sought to conquer instead of trade. They forgot the values that had made their city flourish. And when the balance was broken, the gods, according to legend, sent their warning. There are many versions of what happened next. Some say there were weeks of storms and earthquakes before the final disaster. Others believe it all happened in a single night, a night when the earth shook and the seas roared. Imagine standing in the streets as the ground trembles. The sky darkens, the winds howl, and walls of water rise higher than the tallest towers. In those final moments, the people must have known there was no escape. As the city sank, the lights went out one by one. The music stopped. The laughter faded. And then there was only the sound of the sea, claiming its prize. The next morning, nothing remained. The ocean was calm once again, as if Atlantis had never existed. Yet, the story lived on. Carried by sailors, whispered by philosophers, written by poets. Atlantis became more than a city. It became a dream, a lesson, and a mystery all in one. Some believe that its people survived and spread their wisdom to other lands. That traces of Atlantis can be found in Egypt, Greece, and beyond. As we imagine these things, we are not just thinking about a place. We are thinking about our own world. We wonder if we, too, could lose everything in a single moment. We wonder what future generations will say about us. This is why Atlantis continues to matter. Take a moment now to breathe deeply. Feel the calm that this story brings. Picture Atlantis beneath the waves, resting quietly. Its towers covered in coral, its statues standing like silent guardians. The sea moves gently above, carrying the whispers of the past. Now, let us wander once more through the quiet streets of Atlantis. Imagine them at night, bathed in the silver glow of the moon. Oil lamps flicker softly, their light dancing on polished stone. The sound of gentle waves reaches the city from the nearby harbor. In this moment, all is calm, as if time itself is pausing to listen. The stars above shine brighter than ever, and the people of Atlantis gaze upward, wondering about the mysteries of the heavens. They believed the stars guided their destiny, that every constellation carried messages from the gods. In the stillness of night, priests would climb the temple steps, whispering prayers to Poseidon and the sky. Life in Atlantis followed the rhythm of the sea. The mornings were filled with activity, the afternoons with learning and trade, and the evenings with music and stories. Children would gather to hear tales of heroes and gods, their eyes wide with wonder, as the elders spoke of adventures across the seas. The beauty of Atlantis was not just in its buildings, but in its spirit. The people valued harmony, kindness, and respect for the natural world. They celebrated the seasons, giving thanks for the harvest, and honoring the ocean that gave them life. In every home, there was laughter, warmth, and light. But with time, the signs of change appeared. Whispers of war, of greed, of ambition, began to grow. The leaders, once wise and gentle, started to see power as their only goal. The balance that held the city together began to weaken. As we drift deeper into this vision, imagine walking through the gardens once more. The flowers bloom in every color of the rainbow, their petals swaying gently in the breeze. Fountains sparkle under the moonlight, and the air smells of fresh rain and earth. This is the Atlantis that lives forever in memory, untouched by time, waiting for someone to remember its beauty. Atlantis was more than a city. It was a masterpiece of human imagination, of culture, and of unity with nature. Every street told a story. Every building held a memory. As we continue our journey, picture the ocean waves moving slowly over the ruins. The moonlight shines down, casting silver reflections on the surface. Deep below, statues rest in silence, covered in coral and sand. It is as if time itself has paused, holding Atlantis in a quiet embrace. The people of Atlantis were said to live long and healthy lives. Their diet was simple but rich with fresh fruits, grains, and seafood. They honored the cycles of the seasons and celebrated every full moon with songs and dances. Festivals filled the city with joy, music, and firelight that flickered like stars. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing on a high balcony in Atlantis. Below you, the streets are alive with laughter and music. In the distance, the great temple stands tall, glowing like a jewel in the fading light. The scent of the ocean mixes with the perfume of flowers, creating an atmosphere of peace. But not every story is without darkness. The people of Atlantis, despite their wisdom, were still human. Their curiosity turned to ambition. Their ambition grew into pride. And pride, as always, was followed by downfall. Plato's tale reminds us that no empire, no matter how great, can stand forever. The waves always return. The sea always reclaims. And in the end, all that remains are the echoes of what once was. Imagine the moment the city began to sink. The sound of the earth cracking beneath the foundations. The roar of waves rising higher and higher. People running, shouting, searching for safety where none could be found. In just hours, a world was lost. And yet, in losing Atlantis, we gained something powerful. A story that has lasted for thousands of years. A story that inspires explorers, dreamers, and writers. Atlantis is not gone. It lives in our hearts and minds every time we speak its name. Take a deep breath. Let your mind drift across the water. Picture the stars above and the endless sea below. The story of Atlantis continues, even in silence. In this fourth part of our journey, we sail deeper into the heart of the myth. The waters are calm, the sky is endless, and the memory of Atlantis grows stronger with every breath. Atlantis is more than a story. It is a dream of what humanity can achieve, and a warning of what it can lose. Close your eyes and imagine the city rising from the ocean. The sunlight touches its shining walls. Golden towers rise toward the sky. The canals sparkle like rivers of light. The people move gently through the streets, their voices soft, their hearts filled with pride and wonder. The life of Atlantis was built around harmony. The farmers worked the land with care. The fishermen sailed under the stars, guided by the constellations. The philosophers gathered to share ideas, their voices echoing in the grand courtyards. The city was alive with color. Bright fabrics hung from balconies. Painted murals told stories of the gods and heroes. Fountains sent streams of water into the warm air, cooling the gardens where families walked hand in hand. The Atlanteans loved music. Every evening, the sound of flutes and drums filled the streets. Children danced under lantern light. The stars above shone like silver, and the city seemed to breathe with joy. But there was also a sense of mystery. Deep within the palace, secrets were kept. Old scrolls told of great powers and hidden knowledge. Some said that Atlantis held the key to the universe, that its wisdom came from the stars themselves. Imagine walking into the palace of Atlantis. The floors are made of polished marble. The walls shimmer with gold and silver. Statues of sea creatures guard every doorway. In the throne room, the king sits in silence, his crown gleaming under the firelight. He listens to the whispers of his advisors. He watches as the city thrives. But even in his heart, he feels the pull of ambition. A desire to control, to expand, to conquer. This desire would one day lead to the fall. The priests of Atlantis prayed to Poseidon for guidance. They knew that the balance of the city was fragile. They saw the signs of greed spreading like shadows. But their warnings were often ignored. Let us picture the temple once more. The temple bells ring softly as the wind moves through the city. The scent of burning incense fills the air. Inside, people kneel in prayer, their eyes closed, their minds calm. They do not know that their time is coming to an end. The disasters that struck Atlantis were said to be sudden and violent. The earth shook with unimaginable force. The sea rose like a living wall of water. The sky turned black, filled with lightning and storm. People ran through the streets, searching for safety, but there was no escape. In a single night, the city was gone. The golden towers were swallowed by the sea. The gardens, the markets, the songs, all lost to the deep. Yet even now, the memory remains. It is said that the souls of Atlantis still roam the ocean. That when the wind is soft and the waves are quiet, you can almost hear their voices, singing songs from long ago. As you listen to this story, let your breath slow down. Let your thoughts move gently, like water flowing over stones. Atlantis is calling, not as a place, but as a feeling. A feeling of wonder, of longing, of peace. Imagine the ruins now, deep beneath the waves. Coral covers the walls. Fish swim through open windows. Sunlight filters down through the water, creating moving patterns of light. It is beautiful, even in silence. This is how legends survive. Not through stone, but through the hearts of those who remember. Atlantis is not gone. It lives in every dream, every story, every whisper of the sea. The ocean has always held secrets. It is vast, silent, and timeless. Every wave that rises and falls carries echoes of stories long forgotten. Atlantis is one of those echoes, a tale carried by the tides and whispered by the winds. Some believe Atlantis was not just a single city, but a great empire. Its influence, they say, spread far across the oceans. Its ships sailed beyond the known world, bringing with them knowledge, trade, and culture. They returned with treasures, rare spices, and new ideas, making Atlantis a center of both wealth and wisdom. Imagine a harbor filled with ships, their sails glowing white under the sun. Dockworkers unloading crates of precious goods. The smell of salt and seaweed mixes with the scent of fresh bread and roasted fish. Children run along the docks, their laughter blending with the calls of merchants and sailors. In the heart of the city, markets are alive with color. Stalls overflowing with fruits, fabrics, and handmade jewelry. Artisans working with stone, clay, and metal, crafting objects that shine in the light. The hum of voices and the rhythm of music fill the warm air. It is a place that feels eternal, as if it will never fade. The Atlanteans were said to live in perfect balance with nature. They built their homes with care, using the land without harming it. Gardens bloomed on rooftops, and water flowed through carefully designed canals. Their cities were not only beautiful, but also sustainable, a rare harmony between men and earth. But even the most balanced civilizations can fall. The people of Atlantis began to forget their connection to the natural world. They sought greater power, greater wealth. Their hearts turned to conquest, and their pride grew heavy. It is said that when the Atlanteans abandoned their virtues, the gods turned their gaze away. The fall of Atlantis is described as swift and merciless. Earthquakes shook the ground, opening great cracks in the streets. Waves as tall as mountains swept over the land. Fires burned in the temples, and smoke filled the sky. In the chaos, families were separated, homes were destroyed, and the once great city was swallowed whole. Yet, as the waters rose, some legends say a few ships escaped. They sailed across the sea, carrying survivors who would bring the story of Atlantis to distant lands. These survivors, it is said, built new homes and passed down the knowledge of their ancestors. Could it be that some of the wonders of the ancient world are echoes of Atlantis? Close your eyes now and imagine those survivors at sea. The horizon is endless. The waves are dark but calm. They look back, seeing nothing but water where their city once stood. Tears fill their eyes as they whisper goodbye to their home, a place they know they will never see again. The memory of Atlantis has endured because it speaks to something deep within us. A longing for perfection, for beauty, for something that feels eternal. Atlantis is not just a city. It is a dream, and dreams never truly die. As we continue to drift through this story, feel the calmness of the ocean around you. The sound of gentle waves, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the soft breeze moving through the air. This is the feeling of Atlantis, a mix of peace, wonder, and mystery. The ocean breathes slowly, like a living creature. Each wave rises and falls, carrying with it a memory of the world before. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the voices of those who lived in Atlantis, singing softly beneath the surface. Let us walk through the city once again. Imagine a quiet street lined with stone houses. The walls are painted in warm colors, and every window glows with lantern light. The smell of fresh bread drifts from a nearby bakery. You can hear the sound of laughter from a family gathered around a table, sharing stories of the day. Further ahead, there is a marketplace. The stalls are covered with fabrics in every color you can imagine. The merchants smile as they call out to customers, offering fruits, pottery, and jewelry that glitters under the afternoon sun. Children run through the crowd, playing games and laughing. It feels like a world untouched by time. In the center of Atlantis stands a grand fountain. The water sparkles like liquid crystal, and its gentle sound brings calm to everyone who passes by. Birds rest on the edges of the fountain, drinking from its clear surface. Nearby, musicians play soft tunes on flutes and harps, filling the air with a melody that seems to float on the breeze. As we wander further, we reach the palace gardens. They are filled with flowers of every shade, deep reds, bright yellows, pure whites. The scent of the blossoms mixes with the cool ocean air. Statues of heroes and gods stand tall, carved from shining marble. You can almost hear the faint whispers of the past as the wind moves gently through the leaves. The people of Atlantis believed in balance and respect for all things. Their lives were simple yet full of meaning. Every building, every pathway, was designed with purpose. The canals reflected the sunlight during the day, and at night, they shimmered with the glow of the moon. Imagine standing at the edge of the harbor at night. The sea is calm, and the stars are so bright they look like diamonds scattered across the sky. The ships, tied gently to the docks, rock with the motion of the water. Somewhere in the distance, a lone musician plays a flute, and the sound drifts over the waves like a lullaby. This was the magic of Atlantis. It was not just a place. It was a feeling. A feeling of connection between people, nature, and the universe. Even now, as we tell its story, that feeling still lingers. Take another slow breath. Let the image of Atlantis grow in your mind. The golden temples, the glowing streets, the soft sound of water flowing through its heart. Picture the people, their faces calm, their voices gentle. They lived in harmony, and their memory continues to guide us even now. But we must also remember the lesson of Atlantis. Even the greatest civilizations can fall when they forget the values that keep them strong. The story reminds us to live with humility, to cherish what we have, and to protect the beauty around us. Now the waves close over Atlantis once more. The city sinks back into the depths of memory, waiting for the next dreamer to bring it to life. Let us return to the palace, where the heart of Atlantis once beat strongest. The corridors are wide, lined with glowing torches. Every step you take echoes softly, as if the palace itself is alive. The throne room is vast and silent. Columns rise like trees, their tops lost in shadow. At the center, the throne of the king stands tall, made of gold, ivory, and polished stone. From here, the rulers of Atlantis watched over their city. This is the final voyage into the heart of Atlantis. The waves are calm, but every ripple carries a memory. Close your eyes and imagine the city as it once was. Its golden spires rising high above the water. Its wide streets glistening in the sunlight. The sound of fountains and music filling the air. The people of Atlantis lived not just in luxury, but in a deep harmony with the sea. They understood its rhythms, its moods, its infinite wisdom. The final days were unlike any before. Whispers filled the markets and temples. The sky darkened earlier than usual, and the waves grew restless. Priests gathered in the great Temple of Poseidon, their voices soft yet trembling, offering prayers for peace and mercy. The king looked to the horizon, seeing clouds like mountains and lightning that spoke in harsh tongues. Imagine the final sunset over Atlantis. The sky painted in red and gold, as if it knew this was the last time it would shine on that city. Children played by the canals, unaware of the danger that loomed. Merchants packed their goods, sensing that something was wrong. A soft wind blew through the streets, carrying with it the scent of salt and fear. Then, the earth shook. Stones cracked and towers trembled. The canals overflowed, spilling into gardens and markets. The people ran to higher ground, but the waves came faster and higher than they had ever seen. Mothers held their children close, fathers shouted warnings, and priests cried out to the gods. But the gods were silent. The sea roared like a living creature. Its power was absolute, unstoppable. Walls of water rose and fell, swallowing ships, homes, and temples. The golden statue of Poseidon toppled into the depths, its face disappearing beneath the foam and shadow. Yet, in this chaos, there was beauty. The moon rose, casting silver light on the waves. The stars appeared, as if to watch the city take its final breath. And in those final moments, Atlantis did not fall in silence. It fell with the music of the sea, with the voices of its people calling out, with the sound of life itself. The survivors, few and scattered, fled on small boats. They looked back at the dark horizon, tears on their faces, knowing they were watching their world vanish forever. Some say they carried with them the wisdom of Atlantis, knowledge of the stars, the earth, and the sea, and that they built new homes far away, passing down the memory of the city that once was. Atlantis became a story, then a legend, then a dream. But in every telling, it lives again. It lives when we imagine its shining streets, its great halls filled with knowledge, its gardens blooming with colors beyond our own. It lives when we remember that even the greatest civilizations can fall if they lose sight of what matters. Take a slow breath. Feel the weight of this story. The waves rise and fall in your mind, steady and eternal. Atlantis is gone, but it is also here, in the quiet of your thoughts, in the rhythm of your heart, in the whisper of every tide. The sea has not forgotten. And neither have we. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered. Picture the city once more. Golden towers reflecting the light of the sun. Wide plazas filled with music and life. The scent of flowers and salt carried by the breeze. People laughing, trading, and living in peace. This is how Atlantis is remembered.